Today I'm going to talk about this. It's called a Wonderbag and why I think it's such a great thing to have. I would have never had one of these, but a friend of mine gave it to me because he knew I cook with the crock pot quite a bit, and he thought it could be an energy saver, or if I wanted to leave the house and didn't want to leave the crock pot on. It's basically a bag with a cavity in it. It's heavily insulated around the edges, and it has this cap that goes on top. It was originally, and continues to be developed for several reasons. Some of them are environmental, others are humanitarian. The environmental reason was that billions of people still use fire as their main heat source for cooking. And there was concerns about deforestation and about the pollution created by fire. Also, since so much of the cooking is done by women, women would be spending hours of their day wandering, looking for wood, looking for fuel. And it was tremendous, just a tremendous loss of human potential to spend all your time looking for wood to keep your food warm or to cook your food. And finally, they didn't mention this in the brochure, but I know this from visiting a colonial village on the East Coast years ago, is that all the injuries and the deaths that are caused by open fire cooking in those old colonial houses, they had, the open hearth, and it's all picturesque with big kettles, cast iron kettles hanging, and different pots and pans everywhere, and it does look very cool, but evidently it was a tremendous health and safety hazard, with people accidentally falling in, with clothing catching on fire. So, and people were killed and horribly injured. So this definitely is also an issue with continual open fire cooking. So I've had one for a few years, as I mentioned, and I've used it basically for just keeping food warm. I don't know, maybe my first 2 years here, I did not have a oven. I just had a toaster oven and a crock pot, and that's how I cooked. So if we had guests over, if I was making a couple different dishes, I couldn't keep them all warm in the oven at once or cook one and keep the other one. So I put stuff in there and it worked pretty well. So I was going through my house, I'm trying to rearrange everything, and I found the Wonderbag again, and I thought I'd give it an experiment. And I thought I'd experiment with this Stanley urn. It is an insulated carafe, I guess you call it, and it's made by Stanley, which is a well-known name in thermoses and stuff like that, and it's very heavy, very insulated, and I thought it would be an interesting experiment to see what would happen between just leaving hot water in this without any insulation, or putting hot water in this and putting it in the Wonderbag. So that's what I did. The first time I boiled up some water, and actually what I did is I didn't pour the water into the cold carafe. I boiled some water, let the hot water sit in the cold carafe to warm it up a little bit. Then I dumped that out, and then I added new hot water. So the water was not going into a cold container, it was going into a warmed up container. About in half an hour, 45 minutes after I'd put the hot water in, I felt the carafe and it was warm, very warm. And to me that was a bad sign, because it told me that the heat was leaving the water and migrating outside to the outside of the container and to the air, and that means the heat was not staying long term in the carafe. So sure enough, 2 hours after I'd originally put the hot water in this, I poured it out and it was barely lukewarm. I did the same experiment a few days later, except used the Wonderbag. Again, I put the hot water in the carafe, except I did not preheat the carafe. It was I just wanted to get this done. I had other things to do, so I didn't preheat the carafe. I just put the hot water straight in there, and then I put it in the Wonderbag. Now, the Wonderbag is not set up for a shape like this. It's set up more for a casserole or a round dish, but I made it work. I cinched it, higher around the neck. I wrapped some towel around the part that was exposed and then tried to fit the cap over as much as I could to just make sure it had as much coverage as possible. And then I literally forgot about it. Around 8:30, 6 hours had passed. I wanted to go to bed. I thought, let me just see what's going on there with that carafe in the back room. Oh, by the way, it was in the back room, which is really, really cold. It's the coldest room in the house. It's just there sitting by the window on top of the freezer. I took it out. I poured it out. The water was still hot. Not lukewarm, not warm. It was hot. What this tells me is this is a very good item to have, or something similar if you find yourself in a situation where you either need to keep food warm, you're driving someplace, you're evacuating someplace, you're taking food to somebody else and you want to keep it hot and there might not be a fuel source there to warm it up. Also, if you are in a situation with no power and you want to save on your propane or whatever your alternative cooking source is, propane or butane, or even a little rocket stove, if you just want to save on fuel, you just warm stuff up once, you cook it once, and it's good hours later, no reheating necessary. So I'm very grateful for this gift, and it's no longer in the back of the closet, it's now in the front of the closet, and I will definitely be pulling it out to use it again.